Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video, we're going to be talking about the gigantic add-on debate and hostility going on online right now. First of all, it's always important to point out a lot of people will not even know that this is happening because it's like super online. So what is happening is Blizzard is removing combat add-ons, and in some cases, other add-ons are either being stopped developed or being removed because they use combat type information for their process. And so basically a big add-on purge is happening. Let's just say that. And so there's two big groups here. There's people who love add-ons and just want to keep their add-ons no matter what. And there's people who don't like add-ons and are anti-add-on and have always been against add-ons, etc. Right? And these are the main two groups of people, and they're kind of talking past each other on the internet. And so I thought I'd maybe try to bridge that gap in a video and maybe try to make both points for the people based on what I'm seeing. And, I'll also share my opinion as well. But I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm just trying to get people to stop talking past each other. Maybe stop throwing insults about it. There's been people insulting me for having an opinion, for example. And I've actually been very proud of myself at how calm I've been able to stay with this. I guess I just really don't care. I guess when people insult me about something that's just not true, I don't really care anymore, at least. So anyways, let's get into it. So let's start first talking about the people who want to keep the add-ons, right? I think that's the larger group of people online, just because people who are anti-add-on also tend to be like, maybe they're anti-social media. Maybe they're people that don't like, they kind of fit into a box. Not everybody fits in that box, but a lot of them do. And people who like add-ons are more likely to be online. Not everybody who likes add-ons is on Twitter, but they're more likely to be. So I think the larger group online that would be making an argument would be the people that are pro add-on. So let's talk about that and some of the good examples that I'm seeing, also some of the bad examples that I'm seeing, and some of the talking and things that are not helpful to say as well, right? So one big thing I'm seeing is, and let's talk about some good points first. There's two really good points. One thing is about having the customization available to them that they have built or designed or iterated on throughout the course of 20 years of playing the game. So having a perfect UI that they worked really hard on over a long time, and it felt like their own UI, and they were able to mod it inside the game that they like to play. And, that is a high level of customization. And the reality is, no matter how pro Blizzard you are, they are probably not going to ever reach that level of customization in UI. And if some of that stuff needs combat to do, then you're not going to be able to do that. So that is actually a very good argument. You are going to take a step back from customization if you have a super customized UI that also needs combat things to run, right? To work properly. Now, that being said, even if, so let's say they make a way to where you can at least have things look the way you want. They may not operate the way you want, like because it would take combat knowledge to do that. But let's say they let it look the way you want. Even if Weak Auras, continues, it just says we're done no matter what. Somebody else will make an add-on, that can do that cosmetic stuff for you. So you could continue to have it. Now you might have to rebuild it. That could be very annoying. Again, that's why it's a good point. The customization option is a good point. If you spent 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, making your UI perfect for you because that was something you could do in the game, and now you're not going to be able to do that, that's a good argument of why the add-on is good, especially in my opinion, the cosmetic part of it. That being said, if it does not take any combat to have that cosmetic part of it work, it still should work going forward. You might just need another add-on developer or whoever to make that thing to help you customize it, right? So that's kind of where we are with that. So that's a very good point. Another good point that I see being overused, but not in I'll explain, but is the idea that for disabled people, a lot of these add-ons help them play the game. And I know this to be a fact. I try to do as many, while I am, a lot of times doing more min-maxy ret paladin content on my channel, this is this is how you do the most DPS, that kind of video. I also try to do casual videos, and when I do, I always love getting comments from casual players, sometimes from a disabled player, voicing their concerns or thanking me or whatever, right, for a certain thing. And I love seeing that. And so I do know those players exist, and I definitely feel for them. I have a guildie or former guildie who has a close friend that is disabled and plays a certain way. And so I've heard all kinds of real stories. And so that is another good point, right? Are people like that still going to be able to play? So whatever the disability is, are people still going to be able to play? Because it would really stink if you played this game for a long time with the help of add-ons and then you aren't able to play anymore. Now, is that the reality that might happen to some people? Yes, I guess it could, but it definitely stinks, and that's why it's a good point. So even if it's only a few people, it still feels really, really bad, right? And so that's why it's a good point. I do want to offer one thing on this, though. I think people understand that it's a good point, and I'm seeing a lot of people just use this as an argument that have nothing to do, that don't care at all about people with disabilities or anything like that. And I think that's really gross, to try to make your point by using other people's disabilities, and like it's not you or your friend or anybody and you probably don't even care about them. For people like that, I think that's really gross. Now, it's hard to prove that. You can kind of tell by the way they act in other conversations or engagements or whatever, the people that are doing that, but it is being done. It's extremely gross, and it really it's going to make people it's going to delegitimize in some ways the people with actual disabilities who are making real good arguments and good points. And so I think that is one of the biggest things that's like in favor of add-ons. Now, the other points are being made in favor of add-ons are ones that I don't agree with as much. But let's talk about another big one I hear, which is add-ons. You only need add-ons for the very hardest content, and everyone else should just turn them off and then not have them or something like that. I don't really understand the point of it. But what they're saying is basically you only need add-ons for like plus 15 keys, or you only need add-ons for mythic bosses. And so for any player who's not getting cutting edge, or any player who's not doing, not quite title pushes, but almost like title pushes and keys, you don't need add-ons anyways. And therefore, don't worry about it and don't talk about it. I think that's a really, really bad point, for multiple reasons. Some niche reasons and some more widespread reasons. The reality is this, when it comes to weak aura specifically, right? If does the weak aura make the boss easier even on heroic? Yes. Do the weak auras make the early bosses in mythic easy? Yes. Are weak auras sometimes required to do mid-tier mythic bosses? Also yes. And if you do not have the weak aura, if one person in your group does not have the weak aura, it will not work. It'll break, right? And that's just a known thing. So when people say, oh, this, you only need it for cutting edge, well, that's not true, right? You needed it for like Brood Twister, or I guess you didn't technically. Was Brood Twister weak aura? I don't even know. But there's been other, I can't remember if it was just the bigwigs that assigned it or if it was a weak aura. Either way, for certain mid-tier bosses, you have needed weak auras, right? And if one person doesn't have it, again, it just breaks it for everybody. And those people want to use it to be easier. Now, can I personally figure out could I personally do Brood Twister or whatever mid-tier wall boss needs a weak aura? Could I do that without a weak aura? Absolutely. I could do most things without weak auras. There have been ones where it's like, wow, if I didn't have this weak aura, this would be almost impossible. But for most things, yes, I could. But not everybody can, including some of the high-end players. Like that, and the funny thing is, I try not to consider myself a high-end player because I'm not a Hall of Fame player. I'm not pushing title. But yes, I have however many CEs, I don't even know. I don't even know how many CEs, a lot. 7 years worth of cutting edges. And I'm very good in Mythic Plus keys. I don't know why. I don't even really like keys that much, but I'm very good at Mythic Plus keys. I guess whatever reason. I don't know why. My performance in keys is always very good. And so I am kind of a high-end player, but I don't use add-ons, right? So for me, the add-on thing would be, you would actually just be bring everyone else like the competitive edge that they have from the add-on, they'd be coming back to me. So like I don't have plate or anything like that. I do interrupts and stuns and everything like by tab targeting or really fast clicking on it if it's an emergency or something, right? So if everyone else had to do that as well, then they would be on a much more level playing field as me. So that's another thing I'm seeing, is that it's like saying that only the very highest end need add-ons, and it's just not entirely true. Because if your group or your guild or your friends want to use add-ons and you don't, well then you're the odd man out, right? If everyone else is using add-ons in heroic and you are not, though, then your parse might be a little bit lower. And it's like, well, who cares? Your parse doesn't matter. It's just a heroic parse. And it's like this really condescending way to talk to people. And that's why that point is not going to get across to anybody. So if you're online making that point where only Hall of Fame needs add-ons, only plus 20 keys need add-ons, you're not going to be making any point to anybody. Who are you even talking to? Are you talking to the other 1,000 people that do that content? Like, you're not talking to anybody. So nobody hears that point. Nobody cares about that point. And there are all kinds of people that are in different situations that are forced to use add-ons because either they want to have a decent parse or a decent performance. They don't want to let their group down when their whole group is using add-ons and they're not. They don't want to be the person that dies 3 times on a heroic boss while everyone else dies 0 times because they're using the add-on that helps them, right? In a mythic guild, even if you're not cutting edge, there's a mid-tier boss where you need a weak aura. So if you don't have a weak aura, you can't be in the group. And so there's all kinds of other issues that go way beyond those very, very top people. And to say that there isn't is dishonest. I believe those people know that to be the case. I don't think I'm breaking any news to them by saying this, but I do think it's like a very dishonest argument saying that. The other thing I'm seeing, it's in that same vein of only high-end people. It's this idea that high-end people are the only ones that need add-ons. And if you don't like add-ons, that must mean you're a terrible player. Obviously, a lot of the people saying this are themselves terrible players, which is very odd to me, as having some terrible players say, well, if you don't like add-ons, then you're a terrible player when they themselves are. So I find that to be a little bit odd. But that's just not the case. There's tons of people who are very good players who don't like add-ons. There are tons of people that are so happy about this change. Almost my entire former guild is happy about these changes. Even if it's the Blizzard UI is only usable, they're happy about it. If they never have to download a weak aura again, they will be thrilled. These are people that can parse 99-100s. These are people that perform very well in raid. These are people who could do harder stuff. Maybe not the top 1,000 in the world, but the top 10,000 in the world. These are very good players, and I would include myself in that. And there's a lot of people that are thrilled about the removal of add-ons who are very good players. And say what you will, by removing the add-ons from somebody who is using an add-on versus not, like me not using it, no matter what you say, those people are going to be brought back to me. And I'm going to be moved up a little bit by having some sort of UI from Blizzard, right? There's going to be a gap closed. And even if it's a small number of them, there's going to be some people who are in the high end that use that combat add-ons that are going to drop down because they completely relied on the add-ons. That's also going to happen. Those could be niche cases, right? The player moving up because they're on a level playing field and the player moving down because they relied on the add-ons. Those could be niche, but those are real things as well. And things that people don't maybe take into account when they're saying everybody who dislikes add-ons is just a terrible player. I've been called an LFR hero. I've been called a RetPally R word. I don't think you can say that on YouTube. I don't know. All kinds of things, I've just pretty much ignored it or just said something silly back because I'm not going to let it bug me. But now that we've kind of discussed those, some really good points from the people who like add-ons and some bad points from the people who like add-ons, let me explain why I think I can maybe just put it into one point of why people don't like add-ons. And it's very simple, right? I think the people who don't like add-ons are like, hey, this is a video game and I want to just play my video game. It's a very simplistic mindset, right? I want to play my video game. I don't want to play add-ons. I want to play video game. Why do I have a damage meter? Well, because I want to see my damage in the video game and everyone else sees their damage. And so I want to compare my damage in the video game. Now, if they had a Warcraft logs style thing that you could do on the Blizzard website and just like look up all your runs and you didn't even have to log it, right? Or maybe you have to log it, but it just automatically loads up or something like that. Then I maybe wouldn't even care about damage meter. I would just go check the website and then I'd literally just try to run 0 add-ons, right? But that's why I have that. But in a simplified state, I don't want to have an add-on. I wish that the damage meter was baked in. Or I could go to the website, right? And now the damage meter is going to be baked in. And it's going to use the combat log, so it's going to be very accurate. So I'm going to be very happy about that. I don't no longer will need a damage meter. They are going to be adding a DVM style interface as well. As long as that has sound alerts, that will be plenty good for me. That's basically all I need. And needs a strong word, but in a lot of times the bosses themselves have audio cues, but really all I need is my audio cues for mechanics, and that's about, and again, needs a strong word, but that's about all I care for, I should say. And so it's a very simplistic mindset. I don't need a lot of this stuff. I just want to play the video game. Using all that stuff enhances you and allows you to play the video game better at higher levels, right? And I think that's another thing that the people who want the add-ons aren't fully understanding is, if you're doing a plus 20 key now, you're like the best key player, you're doing plus 20 keys, and you can't do it without the add-ons because everything is so tight, right? And they remove the add-ons, and so that they make the content. So people are worried they're going to remove the add-ons, and now they're only going to be able to do plus 15s. But they're going to make the content not necessarily easier, but different and less brutally punishing, right? And if the difficulty is instead in the number of mechanics or just different things, like how, you wouldn't want to make the dungeons longer because people like kind of like those 25 to 20 minute dungeons. But in general, they find other ways to make it more difficult, maybe more movement mechanics to make sure it still is in that 20 to 25 minute range. And then at the end of the day, you're still doing plus 20 keys. So like, they're not ready right now, obviously, but let's pretend they are. So they remove add-ons right now in the War Within. They put their stuff in. You go into key, and they change everything's already changed for one dungeon. You go to a dungeon that you did a plus 20 on, like World First plus 20. And then you go in after the change and you still barely get that plus 20 done. Then you're in the exact same results, right? And yes, that is a very positive thinking view of it, right? That's giving Blizzard a lot of credit that they could pull off that one-to-one comparison. I'm not saying they will, by the way. I'm not just some pro Blizzard person. I'm not supporting this because Blizzard's doing it. I'm supporting the removal of add-ons because I don't want to play with add-ons. That's why. And I don't want to feel like other people are having an advantage of me. And I don't want to feel like I'm letting other people down in my group. I don't want to feel like I'm letting people down in my guild by not using add-ons. And so that's why I don't want to use add-ons. Again, it comes down to a very simplistic mindset of, hey, I just want to play this video game. I'm pretty good at it personally, and I think I would be even better at it if other people weren't using things that I wasn't using. I've had this very much affecting me back in the Burning Crusade days. I used to play on a laptop, and it was terrible. It was not made for gaming, and it couldn't even support running add-ons. It couldn't even support the game, basically. And people had add-ons, and I saw like my own friends and stuff having add-ons and what they could do, and me not having them, and it put me at a disadvantage, and it didn't feel good, to say the least. And now that I can run a bunch of add-ons, I just don't want to run a bunch of add-ons. And it just comes down to that. I think at the core, the people that don't like add-ons, that's what's at the core of it. They just want to play the game. They don't have to go update 7 week auras and get the latest boss mod and then import this and enable that. They just want to go in and do the boss, right? That's what most people want to do. And yes, there are so I always think it's important to like criticize your own side as well, to like keep you humble. And yes, there are like classic Andes and people who hate add-ons on my side that aren't even going to like they say they hate add-ons, and then they're going to get rid of add-ons. They're not going to even come back and play retail, right? Those people exist too. They're just people who just hate add-ons. There's people who hate add-ons who are not very good players, who say that when the add-ons are going to get removed, they're going to become the best player in the world. Yes, those delusional people also exist, right? There's delusional people on both sides. Like every single issue in the world, there are delusional people on both sides. That's totally true, but that doesn't delegitimize the issue. Just like the people being rude on the pro add-on side, and not realize, and maybe being dishonest about the idea that only the top, very, very top people need add-ons, are a bit delusional. There's also delusion on the anti-add-on side, right? It's just the way it is. And there's good points on both sides. And I wanted to make sure that I highlighted those as well, because it is a real thing, and people need to stop talking past each other on this. And, you know, one thing I would want the people who are pro add-on to realize is, like, so if you've been playing with this perfect UI that you've customized over years using third-party add-ons, and you have all the combat add-ons that you could ever want to make sure you never miss a kick, and you always are in the right spot, and you always do this and you always do that, and you have all this stuff helping you, right? Imagine the player who's doing nearly, and this is me, right, doing nearly the same content you are. So I was getting cutting edge by maybe not getting it as fast as you. I don't really push for keys. I might this season since I'm not rating this season. But I'm probably not gonna get the title. I'll probably cap out at like 15s or something like that. We'll see how the season progresses, right? But I'm just like a little bit behind the very top end players, but I'm not using these add-ons to help me do that, right? And so imagine how much my experience will be enhanced by just having the Blizzard add-ons baked in. And now imagine that for the heroic raiders, right? Imagine them, the ones who don't use the add-ons. Now all of a sudden they have something, right? Because it's baked into the game. And I know it's like an impossible thing where people keep talking past each other, where they'll say, well, just go get the add-ons. It's easy. You just go download CurseForge, and you look up the add-ons you need and you install them. And occasionally you might have to go to a website and install the specific add-on that is only there. And this one you have to pay for, but you can get this one. And it becomes a lot more complex than it is. And yes, for some add-ons, it is as easy as you just download CurseForge and you find the add-on, install it, boom, it's done. Just you have to keep loading it though, and updating your add-ons and stuff like that. So it is an extra step. It is extra annoying. But yes, if you were being completely truthful, it is easy to get most add-ons. But that being said, it's still an extra step, and a lot of people don't want to do that. They just want to play their video game. They don't want to have like Overwolf opened or whatever. I'm not somebody who's like afraid of Overwolf or whatever. I know it's not like the best thing, but there's people who don't want to associate with it, and that's understandable as well. So I just hope we can stop talking past each other and actually give real feedback, because what I see online too much is people making dishonest arguments on both sides, and especially whatever. So in this case, the dishonest argument isn't coming from the people who don't like add-ons, because that's the thing that's happening, right? The add-ons are getting pruned. So it's coming from the other side who wants to keep it, right? And now what happened is, if they completely reverted and they're like, okay, we're not ready, we're not getting rid of any add-ons yet, then the people who don't like add-ons would start making dishonest arguments as well, right? But I just see too much of it right now, and it's not good, because it's not good feedback. There's the people lying about disabilities. Again, just so nobody cuts me out of context, I already talked about the disabilities thing. That is a real issue. I put that into the good issues, right? The good points. But I'm talking about the people who are seeing that it's a good point and then lying about themselves having it or a friend having it. That's what I don't like. I think that's extremely dishonest. And I think you're just doing it to try to get Blizzard to reinforce your opinion, basically. And I think that's gross. But that's probably the one that bothers me the most, because it's a real issue. I've had many people throughout the years comment on my channel as disabilities, people that I know who have friends and things like that. So I don't like people, weaponizing that, I guess. But I just hope ultimately, in closing, that we could maybe try to have an honest conversation about this and be like, hey, the combat add-ons, they got to stop. At some point, this has to stop. And the game has to be built differently, because this can't keep happening. And the people who love their combat add-ons, they're going to have, they just need to give feedback, and Blizzard is going to have to put in whatever they can put in, or what they feel is needed to put in. And that's just going to have to be the way it is at the end of the day, because it's not something they want the game to continue for a long time still, because they still have plenty of subs and they make a lot of money. And in a world where AAA video games are like failing left and right. This one, for whatever reason, keeps powering on, and it can't go on. So let's say WoW lasted another 20 years. That's what they want, right? Another 20 years. Let's say it did. This can't go on for another 20 years, guys. It just can't. So that's where I'm at, man. So let me know what you guys feel about it. Don't be mean. If you're too mean, I'm just gonna remove your comment. I'm not gonna deal with any of that stuff on this video. I tried to be extremely fair in this video, so I'm not gonna deal with anybody being terrible in the comment section. But if you can politely say what your feeling is, let me know below so I can kind of put that into my thought process as well. And yeah, let me know what your own experiences are, everything. If you have disabilities, you know, let that be known so Blizzard can know what to do. Don't lie about it though, if you do not, so that way that can get done. And yeah, as always, I do ask everyone to subscribe to the channel because that helps me out a lot. I need like 40,000 more subscribers before I'd ever get into alpha, so get on that. If you're already a subscriber, I appreciate you, and I encourage you to check out the Patreon. Other than that, everybody, have a good one.